Let's learn how to use even more of the professional editing tools on a multi-layer timeline. This is a brief overview of some complex editing techniques. Some features described are only available in the premium versions of Studio, but you can still follow along this tutorial with any version, just skip the steps that you don't have. These advanced concepts are discussed in greater detail in Complete Training for Studio, which can be purchased on the web store. Let's start with the default project. If you are using one of the premium versions of Studio, open the audio mixer and click on Surround Panning. Now move the sound to the left speaker, then the right with the ball. These movements can also be animated using keyframes for changes over time. Just move your playhead to different parts of the clip, then adjust the blue ball. It's that easy. Let's make a fade in and out on this audio clip. In all versions of Studio, you can create an audio fade in and fade out by dragging in a transition from the upper corner of the clip. In the premium versions of Studio, you can also use the rubber band for adjusting volume with some control points. Hold down the Control key on your keyboard and click near the head of the clip to create your fade in. This ramp on the green line represents the fade up of the volume. Play this clip and you will hear the fade up. Now, do the same at the end of the clip. To adjust the overall volume of the clip, raise and lower the center of the line between the two fades. Smart Mode is the default mode for all versions of Studio, and it will automate some tasks for you. However, if you are using one of the premium versions of Studio, there are two more editing modes for you to choose from. If you have experience with other editing programs, then Overwrite mode or Insert mode may better suit your needs. Whether you're in the Smart Editing mode, Overwrite mode, or Insert mode, all have different consequences for trimming and dragging clips to the timeline. In Smart Mode, Studio automatically decides between Insert or Overwrite depending on the type of action you're doing. When using the Insert mode, clips following the trim points on the same track will be pulled or pushed into position to accommodate the new length of the trimmed clip. In the Overwrite mode, only the clips you are trimming and neighboring clips, as they are overwritten, will be changed. Using any version of Studio, let's get fancy and trim on 3 tracks. This will allow us to keep in sync on all tracks while trimming. Click on the Trim Mode button on the toolbar. This will open a trim point on your primary track. Now click once on the head of 2 other clips on different tracks. Yellow handles will appear. Trim any of them, and you will see that you are trimming all 3 clips while keeping everything after the trim in sync. A simple tip to stay in sync during complex timeline trimming is to always open one trim point on each track. That way, when you trim one track, all will trim and stay in sync. For your information, you can trim a clip or a gap, and as long as each track has one open trim point, everything downstream will stay in sync. When you are in the trim mode, you can use the buttons under the preview to trim 1 frame, 10 frames, or loop around the trim. You can close out of trim mode using the Trim Mode button on the toolbar. Let's show you another professional tip. Let's add another clip to the top layer. We're going to copy and paste the effects from a different clip to this one. Simply right-click on the purple line, select Effect, Copy All. Then do the same with the new clip and paste. It's that easy. If you want to save a custom set of effects to use whenever you like, go to the effects editor by double-clicking on a clip. Add the combination of effects as you like and adjust the settings for each. Then press the Save Effects Composition button. You will be prompted to choose a name for your effects composition. Here, you can also uncheck any parts of the composition you do not want to be saved. To apply the composition to another clip, load the new clip into the effects editor and click on My Effects Compositions. You can add markers to the timeline to create a quick way to jump to a certain place on your timeline. To add a marker, press the marker button on the toolbar or press the M key on the keyboard. By double-clicking on a marker, or by clicking on the down arrow next to the marker button on the toolbar, you can open the marker panel. Here you can name your markers, change the color of your current marker, and jump from marker to marker. When the marker panel is not open, you can jump from marker to marker using the two keys to the right of the M key on the keyboard. To create a composite image where one image shows on top of or behind another image, you first need to add both the foreground clip and the background clip to the timeline. Add the layer that will show in front on top of the background clip on the timeline. At this point, you can double-click on the top layer and add any sort of effect like picture-in-picture or a chroma key effect, which allows you to make a specific color transparent so that the background image shows through. This is the effect used to create a green screen key like we are doing here. Use the Solo button to choose whether to see just the layer you are working on, the layer you are working on and below, or turn off the Solo button to see all layers. Soloing your composition layers does not affect your final composition, but choosing the appropriate solo viewing mode can be very useful when working with many layers. You can now return to your timeline by pressing the OK button and play your new effect composition. Studio is indeed a flexible editing program. It is powerful yet easy to use for the novice editor, but includes advanced features that even professionals do appreciate.